Okay, let me get this straight. The Postmaster General says there is no money for rural mail, while Washington just spent $80 billion on a war. And he wants your state's voter rolls. Watch this.
Senator Slotkin.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I think you've heard in a bipartisan way the importance of the Postal Service, particularly to rural Americans. It's a lifeline. And I just, hearing you talk about how there's going to need to be reductions in service because you don't have the cash, when most Americans have just watched us, launch a war that we think is going to cost at least $80 billion, you can imagine how that hits to someone who says, how do we not have the ability to fund my rural postal delivery so I can get my medication or vital information in my post box, but we somehow have money for everything else. So I encourage you to advocate and push back where you can. And we want you to succeed. We want the post office to succeed. But I want to follow up on some of the lines of questioning that we had on this side of the aisle, particularly from Senator Peters, on the role of the U.S. Post Office in our elections. Because I can't think of something that's more important than our democracy and making sure we have free and fair elections. But the U.S. Postal Service is now part of this bigger story of this president desperate to federalize our elections. He has tried every which way to say that if he and his party don't win in these November elections, they were rigged. He said it in the State of the Union. And now we have this new rule that you've put out saying that states have to turn over their voting rolls, and you, the U.S. Postal Service, will decide, okay, who's approved to send their ballot through the mail. It's just another backdoor way of trying to influence this election. And to show the level of obsession that this president has, he's literally left the leader, Mr. Thune, Senator Thune, on the stage right now and canceled the signing of a housing bill like 8 minutes ago until we pass the SAVE Act, this obsession he has, which will disenfranchise a huge number of voters. So he's obsessed with this, and he's pulled in the U.S. Postal Service. Have you ever voted by mail?
I have not.
Do you believe that a piece of mail that's put in a mailbox should be sent no matter what? Do you believe that is your obligation?
We have a lot of different rules. I mean, if you want a yes or no answer, I'd say no. I mean, obviously, if it's dangerous, if it doesn't
I'm not talking about an inflammatory thing. A letter that is not a threat. Just a piece of mail that is not a weapon, it's not a threat. It's a ballot. Do you believe right now it is your obligation to send that ballot to its intended recipient?
Yeah, we send every piece of mail that we send in accordance with our regulations and the mail manual.
But the state of Michigan's about to start mail-in voting, end of June for our primary. If a 60-year-old woman in Grayling, Michigan puts that ballot after June 25th into one of the U.S. Postal Service's mailboxes, as she's done for many elections, will you direct the Postal Service to deliver that ballot?
I don't have to direct the Postal Service to do that because we do that every day. That is exactly what we do.
So then why are you demanding, actually, that for Michigan's voter rolls in other states to be presented to you? The president has sued us, okay? We're in court right now. He's sued us and a bunch of other states for our voting rolls. So he's obsessed with this. The Constitution gives the right to states to execute elections. So you are a pawn in this, unfortunately. I don't think you're a bad person from what I know of you. You run a big company, but you are part of a much bigger story that's playing out literally on a stage right now. And so if you don't get Michigan's voter rolls for the general election in November, will you move those ballots in your mailboxes?
Remember, right now, we only have a proposed rule, so there are no new rules.
But have you proposed it?
We will move those.
You've proposed it?
We did.
Okay, so
we will move those ballots in accordance with whatever rule is in effect at that point in time.
So, but you proposed it. It's your rule. right?
We did, yes.
Okay. So you want it to pass?
Yes. I mean, as I said before, this is not something that's new. This is something that we've been recommending for many, many, many years. And again, it's a process that is followed by a lot of states already. States like California and Oregon, states like
I think
Florida.
you're conflating, I think, some of the things. I have no problem with a barcode being put on a piece of mail and following it like that. But I just think it's important to understand, especially since you are a lawyer, not this kind of lawyer, but you are a lawyer, that you are being used as part of a much bigger story that this president is trying to play out, where he does not believe elections that he loses are valid elections. He's willing to do just about anything to show that he's actually a big winner, no matter what he does. And I just ask you, as a professional, as someone who's done serious things in your life, please push back on being a pawn in this authoritarian playbook. The Postal Service is one of the most important institutions in our country. Don't taint it with the obsession of this one man. Please push back.
Quick favor before we get into it. Hit that subscribe button, because this is exactly the kind of story they hope you scroll past. Now watch how Senator Elissa Slotkin walks David Steiner straight into the contradiction he cannot answer. Pay attention to what he admits, because it tells you everything. And here is the backdrop the screen is laying out. The Postal Service is staring down cash shortages that would gut delivery for rural communities. Lawmakers say the agency is being deliberately starved, and the people paying the price are the ones who rely on the mail for life-saving medication. Hold that next to what we just heard. There is no money for grandma's prescription, but somehow there is money for everything else. That is not a budget problem. That is a choice. All right, so let's talk about what just happened there. Slotkin did not give a speech. She asked a question a 10-year-old could answer. If somebody drops a ballot in the mailbox, will you deliver it? And instead of a clean yes, he started talking about rules and regulations. The question was simple. The answer was the problem. Because when the facts are on your side, you say yes. You do not stall. Now, look at what the screen is showing you, because this is the heart of it. Slotkin went after a newly proposed USPS rule that forces states to hand over their local voting rolls to federal oversight. She called it what it is, a backdoor maneuver to choke off mail-in voting and hand the federal government control over elections the Constitution says belong to the states. Think about that for a second. The Postal Service does not pick who gets to vote, or at least it never used to. And Steiner admitted the rule is his. He wrote it. He wants it to pass. He owns every word of it. And here is where it falls apart. When Slotkin asked if he would deliver a Michigan woman's ballot, he said he does not need to be told, because the post office does that every day. Okay, then why are you demanding the voter rolls? If the mail already works, the rule changes nothing except who gets to interfere with it. That is the contradiction, and he could not close it. He even admitted the president has already sued multiple states for those same roles. He said it out loud. The president sued us. We are in court right now. That is not the answer of a neutral mail carrier. That is a pawn who knows exactly which game he is in. Now layer in what the screen is telling you next. The administration canceled a bipartisan housing bill signing minutes before it started, just to pressure Congress into passing the SAVE Act, a bill voting rights advocates say is built to disenfranchise thousands of legitimate voters. Slotkin pointed at that stage in real time. The president walked away from housing, from an actual bill helping actual families, because he was obsessed with one thing, not the economy, not rural America, controlling who gets to vote. That is not a side issue. That is the entire point. So let me make sure the math is clear. He says, trust me, we already deliver every ballot. Fine. Then the demand for voter rolls serves no postal purpose at all. It is not about delivery. It is about leverage. Slotkin even handed him an exit. She told him, I do not think you are a bad person. You run a big company. but you are being used. She was not trying to humiliate him. She was trying to give him a way out, and he would not take it. He kept defending a rule that does nothing except make it harder to vote by mail. That is not confusion. That is a decision. Zoom out, because this is the bigger picture. Legal experts and Democratic leaders are warning independent agency heads to resist exactly this kind of pressure, the kind that turns a trusted, nonpartisan institution into a tool for federalizing elections. The Postal Service delivers your mail, your medicine, your ballot, no matter who you voted for. The second it starts deciding which ballots count, it stops being the post office and becomes a weapon. So here is the line. Next time someone says, this rule is about security, ask them why the Postmaster General admits the mail already works fine. They wanted the talking point. Slotkin put the record on the table, and the defense collapsed. Full stop. I'll see you in the next one.